Pokemon.
Card shows can be hit or miss, but when Mr. Pow's around, it's known to hit. As we get closer to Collecticon, let's take a deep dive into everything I'll be bringing, the expenses I've put into it, and everything that goes into vending at a card show. So let's start off with some vintage packs. Okay, first we gotta get our taquitos because our lunch just got done and I'm hungry, okay? I'm just gonna say it now, I'm hungry. It's taquito time! We have sample packs right here from Celebrations. We also have base black and white and emerging powers. These sample packs can range from $5 to $20. They're only 3 cards per pack, but they are super cool and hard to find for black and white. Next we get into some of the bigger packs that I own, like the Gym Challengers Giovanni, first edition as well. Giovanni is obviously iconic, so this card art, or I guess this pack art, is just beautiful being Giovanni. Everybody loves Giovanni's Riz. Oh, yeah. And his charisma too, if you want to call it that. Obviously, Blaine Charizard is going to be the big hit. And so having Blaine on the front of the pack is just iconic in its own way as well. So I think that the pack art pays for itself. I want to say these range to about $300 to $350 or so. Packs always depend on the weight. Personally, I haven't weighed these yet, but maybe that's something we should do. We also have Boundaries Crossed. I personally don't know a lot of the chase in Boundaries Crossed, but it came in the lot, which came with a lot of vintage cards as well. Why do I keep saying came? Team Rocket is obviously going to be a big thing, especially being especially with the new set getting, especially with the new phrase copyrighted by the Pokemon team.
Have you ever had a dream that you once?
Team Rocket is going to have a big jump in price in the future, I believe, so this is one that I'm not actually rushed to sell. Plus you got Jesse and James in the front. That's just iconic in itself. This one is not a long crimp. It's actually just a regular Team Rocket pack. Again, I haven't weighed these personally, but I'm sure there's something there. There's gotta be something between the 4, and if not, it is what it is. We'll end it off with 2 just random miscellaneous Evolution packs. Evolutions is really cool, really iconic, and I have a lot of it. I have a lot of graded Evolutions cards as well, and so I think it's pretty cool. Now it's time for some vintage. Charizard, Venusaur, Blastoise. My vintage binder honestly ranges from Neo to base set. Most of it's not going to be, there's no Shadowless, there's no first edition, anything that's going to really, nothing that's going to be worth, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars on end. But we do have some base set Charizard, base set 2 Charizards, you know, your basic stuff. There's a first edition Ditto, like, there's a lot of just cool stuff, and you'll see that as we go through. Obviously, I have a full page of Blastoise. I honestly don't know why, I just think Blastoise is just super cool, so I wanted to dedicate the first page to him. We'll get into the next page, which is going to be all Charizard and Dragonite's also thrown in there. I also have the, I also have the Celebrations Charizard and the Evolutions Charizard thrown on there, just because it's the Zard page. Over here, you can see the Venusaurs that we already went over. The Raichus are really cool too, especially Lieutenant Surges. None of these are some of my favorite Raichu artworks, but they are really iconic. I'll go over some of my favorites, like the Alakazam and the Dark Alakazam. I think those are super cool cards. As an Alakazam collector, I can really say that these are great cards. I would also like to point out this Pichu from Neo. I think the hollowing pattern on any of the Neo stuff is super beautiful, so I really like having that card. Over here, as we go through the vintage binder, we've got some Garys. Everybody likes Gary, and nobody complains about them. Nidoqueen and Beedrill just have to be in there because it's all vintage. Next, you'll go through and you'll see a lot of Kangaskhan throughout this whole binder. I bought 90% of this binder from one person, and I bought it at a pretty good price. I was really happy with it at the end of the day. It wasn't like I stole it from the guy, but I got it good enough where I feel happy owning it. And I feel happy owning it just because it's vintage, honestly. I may not have opened a ton of vintage cards as a kid, you know, vintage base set, jungle, fossil. I wasn't even born yet. You guys are old. I can understand the love of vintage cards. The beauty is there. They're defined as the beginning. And I think the beginning is the biggest part for Pokemon and why so many people still love it in their older ages. I mean, look at Grim Horizon. He's 38 and he tries to buy every single Pokemon set ever. I would be embarrassed if it was something else like, you know, Beanie Babies or something, but since it's Grim Horizon and it's Pokemon, I'm happy for the guy. Obviously, we have to detail a lot of Machamp in there because he is the Machampion. Over here, we got Naruto. I mean, Ninetales. Same thing, though, if you really think about it. We got Clefable in the back from base set, or I mean, yeah, from base set 2. We got Clefairy from base set. Also really cool. I think base set 2, I like obviously more than base set just for the hollowing pattern, but that's also because I didn't grow up opening base set. So I can't understand the feeling of opening these vintage cards as much as some of you guys can. Short cat break. Here's the kitty. This is Petunia. I don't carry much Japanese, and you'll see that as a common occurring pattern where people ask me for Japanese and I'm like, I'm not that guy. But I have the Alakazam because I love Alakazam. We're gonna go through. I try to keep it organized by color, but it's always hard. Hypno right here. I already have this Hypno for my PC, but if you do want to know something about me, I collect Hypno. The Energy, the Kangaskhan's again that I told you would randomly pop up. I think this card is super underrated. Team Rocket Sneak Attack. This card is super cool. I love the Team Rocket aspect. I mean, it's Team Rocket. How can you really complain? Here's one of the coolest Snorlaxes ever made. Honestly, it's just iconic for the artwork and the nostalgia behind it. Don't even get me started on Vaporeon. Do not comment the question. We'll go through. There's a lot of water. Celebrations at Blastoise, not so vintage, but it's in here anyways. Aerodactyl, one of my favorite Pokemon. Hitmonchan up here. Kabutops, and the Dark Dug Trio. Dark Dug Trio has just become one of my favorite cards, and the holo on that card is so beautiful. Again, as you can see, there's a lot of dupes in this binder, so we're gonna kind of speed it up, but we got the Mewtwo's, we got the Slowbros, we got the Muck, don't say it backwards. Arbok, you can say that backwards, it's Cobra. Koga, Kangaskhan, Clefairy, more Mucks, and we got Japanese. Genuinely, I think this Meowth is so underrated. I mean, look at the holo. The hollowing pattern on this card reminds me of base set 2 in its own way, but I love the little GB stamp for the Game Boy, and just having it be a promo, I think it's so cool. Plus, this one has a beautiful swirl. I have the Cleffa, but nobody likes you, let's be honest. If you do, please leave a comment, because I just want to block you. Articuno, we're getting into a bunch of non-holos right here, but then we get into Southern Isles. Some of my favorite cards ever made. But just having the Magikarp in there and the hollowing pattern like a base set 2 pattern, but as a reverse holo is so cool. I'm gonna give you a short look on each one, even though some of them aren't my favorites. But let me know down below which one is your favorite from the set. And also subscribe while you're down there. I'm sure most of you guys would just say the Mew, but you're also kind of basic for that. Here's our first empty page, but there's more on this page. I had somebody buy out a complete page, so we can keep going on. In here, this is the page of that first edition Ditto that I mentioned earlier. I used to collect Ditto of all Pokemon, and I honestly don't know why. I also don't know why I collect Hypno until I found out that I just love Hypno, because no one else does. Someone's gotta love the guy. I wish someone would love me. We also have the Flareon from Jungle. I think this card's really cool, and I actually think it's really underrated for the evolutions. A non-holo Dark Gary. Gary's my guy. Then we got the Politoed. Then we got the Politoed. All the Neo Holos are just so beautiful. There's nothing better than just the hollowing pattern on Neo cards. The card's definitely seen better days, but I think this Raichu is really beautiful in its own way. Am I a PSA 1 collector? No way. That would be sad. I mean, really, what's wrong with you PSA 1 collectors? Like, there's gotta be a screw loose or something. Now that we've gotten through all of my vintage stuff, let's look into some more modern and mid-era cards. As a vendor, your first page has to be a bang to really catch people's eye. So you're about to see a little bit of a bang. It's nothing too crazy, it's nothing too expensive, but it's stuff that definitely will catch your eye. Starting from the bottom, we have the Groudon EX, which I think this artwork is so interesting. It's not my favorite of Groudon, but it is really cool. The Charizard EX from 151 and the Charizard V alt art, which I think are really cool just to have next to each other. Up here, we got the Rayquaza Secret and the Raging Bolt. The Raging Bolt's actually turned into one of my favorite cards from any of the more modern sets. This Charizard is the non-holo, but it's really clean, and I think it's a really cool, interesting take on Charizard for once, which is a little different than your basic stuff. Blood Moon Ursaluna is also another card that's definitely grown on me. I love cameo cards where they have all the other Pokemon in the background. Like in there, you can see Teddy Ursa and Munchlax, which I think makes this card really, really cool. The Charizard VMAX obviously has to be up front because everybody collects Charizard, and it's kind of sad. But wait, there's an empty slot. For this empty slot, I wanted to show off one of my favorite cards, and I wanted to show it off like this. Flareon Reverse Holo. This Reverse Holo fireworks pattern on the Flareon looks so beautiful, especially being a fire type. I think it's really cool, it's really clean, and I think that's what makes it one of my favorite cards in the binder. I mean, as you can see, the edge wear is very minimal. It looks super clean. There's a little bit of whitening, like down here in the corner, and there's some edge wear when you take it out of the sleeve, but I think this card is just so beautiful, And again, like I said in the other binder, this artwork is underrated. Now through here, you're gonna see a lot of level X's because I've been sitting on these level X's for a long time. But we also got Morty's Conviction, the Bulbasaur for 151, and this Giratina full art that I think is really, really cool. In here, we've got another Groudon. I think this Groudon is way cooler than that other guy, but the EX pattern would make this look really awesome. The shiny Rayquaza, which, let's be honest, in these older sets, they just threw shinies in all the time. In this era specifically, I believe it's black and white, they were just throwing shinies out there just for free. They had like 8 Gyarados shinies. Like, what's up with that? Some Pidgeot Delta species, Mew, Ancient Mew. There's the Gyarados, one of the Gyaradoses. The Arceus V-Star Secret, which I think is really cool. I used to not like these actually, but they've definitely grown on me recently, especially with the price going down. When we get over to the next page, we've got just the Mewtwo promo, Raging Bolt EX, and the Mew EX. These two are promos, and this card, I think Raging Bolt is just one of my favorite new Pokemon. The Berserker Altart Celebi, and the Gold Pikachu. He's pretty cool, chunky boy. Volcarona, and the Flygon. Some of these are just hollows, nothing crazy, but again, they're stuff that I think real collectors would love. And that if they don't sell, as a collector myself, I like to just enjoy owning them until they do. There's a cool Darkrai, anything with the Moon cameo, I just love. We've got the Ninetales EX, Giovanni's Riz, Charizard EX, Shining Rayquaza. I mean, you can see this binder is just loaded full of different niche things that I think people will really enjoy. I tried to put a lot of my megas together. At one point, I tried to collect every mega ever, and that did not work out. That was a very expensive toll. I tried for about 3 months. I collected over 60 megas in 3 months, and I only would do it at shows. I would not purchase them online, as I like going in person to buy all my stuff, but this was too much. Here's a really cool Volcanion EX. I think this one's really underrated, especially when you get Xerneas in the background. I think it's really cool. We've got more megas, the Reshiram and Charizard GX, Shaymin EX, Rotom, another Charizard VMAX. I mean, as you can see, this thing is loaded up for the most part. We got Lily, one of my favorite trainer cards actually of all time. That Ray's really special to me. I don't know why. Vaporeon, don't ask the question. We've already been over that. We've got Salamence, we've got Steven, and again, just so many cards. And I try to keep it mixed in so that someone has to look through older cards to get into their newer cards. And Japanese is not really my go-to. We got the Master Ball, we got the Master Ball, we got the Master Ball, we got the Master Ball. Just like your mother would say, these balls are masterful, and she pleads on her knees for more of them. But that's a different conversation. So that's it for all my big binders. Now we would only have to go through the little stuff, but I'll flip through a little bit. It's a lot more modern, it's a lot more new age stuff, and I think people would really just enjoy it. It's stuff that's great for giving away to kids and stuff like that. That's one thing I always try to do. I always try to bring like a handful of just cheap stuff that I can just give to a kid and make them smile. That's like the best part of selling cards. I love just making people smile and really enjoy this. Like, so much is taken away because everything's comps and prices and numbers, and yes, it's fun to make money, but it's fun to make people happy. So one of the biggest things we try to do, especially at our card shows, like the Burlington card show, July 27th, we give away so much stuff, even though it impacts our funding and how much we make off of it, because trust me, selling card shows does not make you as much as you think. Like I said, it's a lot of cheaper stuff, but I think it's really cool. Cool artworks like that Pachirisu. She actually won Worlds one time, so I bet not many of you knew that. That in the actual game, she won a World Championship. There's that Fluttermane again. There's some break cards. If you collect break cards, you kind of scare me, I'm not gonna lie. But I bought this whole binder out from a guy. He was pretty cool. Here's another Pokemon binder. It's got some beat up cards like this Pichu. It's definitely beaten up, but I think it's really cool. I think when we go back and look through this, there's also a lot of cool cards. Definitely some underrated stuff for sure. Like, I think this promo for me is really cool, but it has a big white dimple in the back. I bought most of this binder from Grim Horizon, so blame him. we're now on to the final binder. And in this final binder, it's similar to all the other binders you just saw, but that's about it. It's just the same. I'm surprised I got through so much in just one video. We obviously have more coming soon, especially a lot of my slabs. I did not show you guys a single slab today, and that kind of surprised me, so I'll have them. I was about to slip. I was about to tell you what gold stars I have coming in, but that's going to be for another video. I've got 3 coming in from PSA, 1 alt-art trainer, no. I've got one tag team coming in from PSA, 3 gold stars, 2 gold stars I'm buying from a guy, and a PSA 10 Charizard. So I've got a lot of cool stuff coming in the mail for Collecticon specifically, and I'll show those off in its own video. So just make sure to subscribe for more and to see that video coming up soon. And more content with some of my Poke friends like Grim Horizon and Poke Pete and Trading Post and New Hoenn and all these great people that I get to surround myself with doing the show, like the Brilliant Card Show, July 27th. See you there.